Nobody warned Danny Reeves that failing a survival test at the Orvani Institute meant floating home through empty space. The orientation guide mentioned it briefly on page 47, somewhere between dining hall hours and library access codes. He found out the truth from a crying Fenari student who had watched her roommate get expelled last semester. "They just sent her away," the small six-limbed alien had whispered. "No second chances." Danny thought about this as he stood in line with 199 other students outside the simulation dome. 3 years of saving money. A full scholarship that his family had celebrated for weeks. All of it could end today. The Orvani Institute of Planetary Sciences floated in orbit around a gas giant, a massive station that trained the galaxy's best explorers and colonists. Students came from 47 different species. They studied for years. They paid fortunes, and every single one of them had to pass the practical survival examination. Danny was the only human in his class. Most aliens had never met a human before him. They looked at him with curiosity, sometimes with pity. Humans were new to galactic society, barely 50 years since first contact. They were considered primitive, developing, still learning. He did not mind. He had grown up in rural Montana, where nobody cared what the galaxy thought about anything. The dome doors opened. 5 professors stood on a raised platform inside, their figures outlined against the artificial sky of the simulation chamber. Dr. Yulan Thamas, the senior professor, was an Orvani. His crystalline body caught the light as he moved. The Orvani were known for their careful thinking. They took hours to make simple decisions. Danny had once watched Dr. Yulan spend 40 minutes choosing which stylus to use for grading. Beside him stood Professor Riilla, a Fenari with 6 limbs and large analytical eyes. Professor Gentduro was a Palaxian, his stone-like body massive and slow. Professor Silawen floated in a containment sphere, her aquari form shifting like living water. Professor Torvin Kale clicked his insectoid mandibles as he reviewed a data pad. "Today you will demonstrate practical survival skills," Dr. Yulan announced. His voice was slow and musical. "You will enter a simulated Class 4 hostile environment. The temperature will drop to dangerous levels within 60 standard minutes. You must construct an emergency shelter using only materials found within the simulation. Your shelter must protect against cold, wind, and predator incursion." Danny looked at the dome. It was huge. Through the entrance, he could see dense forest, fallen trees, thick vegetation. The air coming from inside smelled like pine and wet earth. His chest loosened a little. He knew this smell. "You may use any analytical tools, calculation devices, or reference materials you brought with you," Professor Riilla added. "The test is designed to assess both theoretical knowledge and practical application." Around Danny, alien students pulled out tablets and scanners. A group of Orvani students had already formed a discussion committee, their crystalline heads bent together in conversation. 2 Palaxians were methodically cataloging their equipment. A Fenari near Danny was calculating wind resistance formulas on a holographic display. Danny had brought nothing. His pockets were empty. A Morthian student glanced at him with what might have been concern. "Do you need to borrow a scanner? The material analysis will be essential." "I am okay," Danny said. "Thank you." The Morthian's antennae twitched with confusion, but said nothing more. "You will be assigned to different starting zones within the simulation," Professor Gent announced, his rocky voice grinding like boulders. "Begin when the signal sounds. You have 60 minutes, no more." Students shuffled forward to receive their zone assignments. Danny got Zone 14, a section near the eastern edge of the dome. He walked to his starting position and waited. The other students in nearby zones were still preparing. They ran last-minute calculations. They discussed strategies with classmates. They reviewed survival manuals on their devices. Danny just looked at the forest. He saw the fallen tree 20 meters ahead, its trunk thick and angled against a small ridge. He saw the flexible young trees growing nearby, their branches thin and easy to bend. He saw the broad leaves on the ground, the dried grass near the roots. the natural depression in the earth where water had once pooled. His grandfather had taken him into the mountains when he was 7 years old. They had built shelters together. His grandfather had learned from his own father. His father had learned from his. Somewhere back in the chain, Danny's ancestors had built shelters to survive winters that killed weaker people. Danny did not think about any of this. He just saw the forest and knew what to do. The signal sounded. A loud tone echoed through the dome. Students began scanning their environments. They measured trees. They analyzed soil composition. They ran temperature projections and structural integrity calculations. Danny started walking toward the fallen tree. He moved with purpose. No hesitation, no scanning, just movement. A Fenari student watched him pass by with wide eyes. What is he doing? He has not even assessed the area. Her partner checked a display. Humans are known for impulsive behavior. He will likely fail quickly. Danny did not hear them. He was already picking up the first branch, testing its flexibility in his hands. Good, strong but bendable. 10 meters away, his shelter was waiting to be built. He just had to put the pieces together. The professors in their observation booth had not even started recording his zone yet. The fallen tree was perfect. Danny knew this before he reached it, the same way he knew rain was coming by the smell of the air, or that ice was too thin by the sound it made under his feet. Some knowledge lived in the body, not the brain. He circled the trunk once. The tree had fallen against a small rise in the ground, creating a natural angle. One end rested on earth, the other propped against the ridge. The gap underneath was just wide enough for a person to crawl inside. Nature had already done half the work. Danny grabbed a long branch from nearby and tested it. Solid. He wedged it against the fallen trunk at an angle, creating the first support for his wall. Then another branch. Then another. His hands moved fast, selecting and placing without pause. 40 meters away, a group of Orvani students had formed a circle. Their crystalline bodies flickered with inner light as they debated the optimal approach to shelter construction. One of them projected a holographic model of their proposed design. They discussed angles. They discussed load-bearing capacity. They discussed material density ratings. They had not touched a single branch yet. Danny was already weaving smaller sticks between his support poles, creating a lattice wall. The sticks did not need to be perfect. They just needed to hold the insulation. In the observation booth high above the dome, 5 professors watched 200 camera feeds. Each screen showed a different student in a different zone. Most screens showed aliens standing still, scanning, calculating, planning. Professor Riella tracked the progress of a promising Fenari student. The young alien had completed a thorough material analysis and was now constructing a detailed blueprint on her tablet. Excellent methodology, Riella murmured. She will produce an optimal structure. Professor Torvin monitored a Morthian group. These 3 have formed an efficient collective. They are dividing tasks based on individual strengths. Very logical. Dr. Yulan observed quietly. His ancient eyes moved from screen to screen. Something caught his attention. Zone 14, the human. What is he doing? The other professors glanced at the screen. They saw Danny on his knees, piling dead leaves against a wooden frame. He appears to be working, Professor Gent said slowly, though I see no evidence of planning. Has he scanned the materials? Professor Scylla asked, her fluid form rippling with curiosity. No scanning detected, Torvin confirmed. No device usage at all. He is working entirely without data. They watched for another moment. Danny was moving quickly, his hands grabbing fistfuls of dried grass and stuffing them into gaps in his leaf wall. His movements were rough and fast, nothing like the precise methods taught in their classrooms. Impulsive species, Riella said. He will exhaust himself and produce an inferior shelter, a common error among undeveloped civilizations. Dr. Yulan said nothing. He continued watching. Back in the dome, Danny was sweating. The simulation had begun dropping the temperature and his breath was starting to fog, but the work kept him warm. He had built the basic frame in 4 minutes. Now he was insulating. The trick with a debris shelter was layers. Lots of layers. More than you thought you needed, then double that. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. Cold air is sneaky, boy. It finds every gap. Give it no gaps to find. Danny piled leaves against the lattice wall. Then more leaves. Then dead grass. Then more leaves on top of the grass. He worked in handfuls, fast and steady, building up a thick wall of natural insulation. A robotic predator drone passed nearby, scanning for vulnerable students. Its sensors swept the area. Danny ignored it. The shelter was not finished, but the drone was not a real threat yet. The cold was the real enemy. Focus on the cold. 7 minutes now. The frame was solid. The walls were thick. Danny crawled to the entrance and began working on a door. He wove grass and flexible twigs into a rough mat. It did not need to be beautiful. It needed to block wind. He propped it against the entrance, checking the fit. Good. It would hold. Inside the shelter, he gathered extra leaves and grass, creating a thick layer on the ground. Insulation below was as important as insulation above. Cold earth sucked heat from a body faster than cold air. 8 minutes. Danny sat back and looked at his work. The shelter was small and rough. It looked like a pile of forest debris with a hole in one end. No alien would call it elegant. But inside, protected from the dropping temperature, Danny felt warm. The walls blocked the wind. The door kept out the draft. The debris held his body heat close. He crawled inside, pulled the grass mat across the entrance, and lay down on his bed of leaves. 9 minutes. His breathing slowed. His heart rate dropped. The shelter smelled like the forest back home, like camping trips with his grandfather, like summers in the mountains when they lived off the land for weeks at a time. 10 minutes and 14 seconds. The environmental sensors detected his shelter. Internal temperature, stable. Wind exposure, minimal. Predator breach probability, low. Status complete. In the observation booth, an alert sounded on Professor Torvin's station. He glanced at it, clicked his mandibles in confusion, and ran a diagnostic. "Dr. Yulan," he said slowly, "there appears to be an error in my equipment." "What sort of error?" "Zone 14 is showing a completed shelter." All 5 professors turned to look at the screen. Danny Reeves lay peacefully inside his debris hut, arms folded behind his head, eyes closed. The test had been running for 10 minutes. Professor Torvin ran the diagnostic 3 times. The result did not change. Zone 14 showed a completed shelter meeting all survival parameters. Temperature protection, adequate. Wind resistance, adequate. Structural integrity, adequate. "This is not possible," Riela said. Her 6 limbs twitched with agitation. "The test has only been running for 10 minutes. The minimum completion time in our models is 43 minutes, and that assumes optimal material selection and 0 planning delays." "Perhaps the sensors malfunctioned," Gent suggested. His stone body shifted with uncertainty. "The human may have damaged the monitoring." "Equipment." Dr. Yulan raised one crystalline hand. "Rewind the footage. Show me everything from the beginning." They watched. The recording started when the signal sounded. On screen, Danny Reeves walked directly toward the fallen tree. No scanning, no hesitation. He picked up branches and began working immediately. "He did not assess the environment," Riela said. "He did not measure anything, he just started." "Keep watching," Dr. Yulan said. They watched Danny build the frame. 4 minutes. They watched him weave the lattice walls. 2 more minutes. They watched him pile debris against the structure, layer after layer, handful after handful. "The technique is crude," Gent observed. "No precision, no mathematical optimization." "And yet," Dr. Yulan said quietly, "the shelter stands." They watched Danny create the door. They watched him crawl inside. They watched him lie down and close his eyes. 10 minutes and 14 seconds. Completed. Professor Silla's fluid form swirled with disbelief. "He is resting. The test continues for another 50 minutes and he is resting." Down in the dome, the temperature continued to drop. Other students were now working quickly, their early planning phases finally giving way to construction. The Fenari student with the detailed blueprint had begun assembling her shelter according to her precise specifications. The Orvani committee had reached a decision and started gathering materials. The Morthian collective worked together in perfect coordination. None of them were close to finishing. At the 40-minute mark, the first alien student completed her shelter. A Fenari from a different zone, one who had worked with exceptional speed and efficiency. The professors noted her time with approval. 41 minutes was impressive. Danny had finished 31 minutes ago. At the 60-minute mark, the test ended. 112 students had completed functional shelters. 88 had failed. The passing students would advance to next term. The failures would face review boards and possible expulsion. But the professors were not thinking about pass rates. They were thinking about 10 minutes. "Bring the human to my office," Dr. Yulan said. "I wish to understand." Two proctors found Danny still lying in his shelter, half asleep. They informed him the test was over and that the senior professor wanted to speak with him. Danny followed them, with confusion on his face. He entered a small examination room where all 5 professors waited. They sat behind a curved table, their eyes fixed on him. Danny felt like he had done something wrong. "Mr. Reeves," Dr. Yulan began, "you completed the survival test in 10 minutes and 14 seconds. Danny nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. Was that too slow? I could have gone faster, but I wanted to make sure the insulation was thick enough." "Too slow." Professor Torvin's antennae quivered at the words. "Mr. Reeves," Rila leaned forward, "the next fastest student completed the test in 41 minutes. You finished 31 minutes ahead of the second-place student, in a 1-hour test." Danny blinked. "Oh," he paused, "is that bad?" The professors exchanged glances. "It is not bad," Dr. Yulan said carefully. "It is unprecedented. We have administered this test for over 200 years. No student has ever completed it in under 30 minutes. Many fail entirely." "Oh," Danny said again. He shifted his weight uncomfortably. "I am sorry, I did not know." "Why are you apologizing?" Gen asked. "I do not know. You all look upset." Professor Scylla made a sound that might have been laughter. "We are not upset, Mr. Reeves. We are confused. How did you do this?" Danny shrugged. "I built a shelter. It is not that hard." Silence followed. "Perhaps," Dr. Yulan said slowly, "you could explain your methodology, walk us through your process." Danny scratched his head. "I do not really have a methodology. I just saw the fallen tree and knew it would work as a ridgepole. Then I found branches for walls and leaves for insulation. That is all." "But how did you know?" Rila pressed. "How did you know without analyzing the materials, without calculating the angles, without testing the thermal properties?" Danny stared at her. He genuinely did not understand the question. "I just knew," he said. "My grandfather taught me when I was little. You look at what is around you and you use it. It is not complicated." The professors fell silent again. Finally, Dr. Yulan spoke. "Mr. Reeves, I believe we need to learn more about your species. Please tell us about your grandfather. Tell us about how humans learn to survive." Danny sat down in the empty chair before him. "Well," he said, "I guess it starts with camping." "Camping," Torvin repeated. "Yes, it is when humans go into the wilderness and survive there. For fun." 5 pairs of alien eyes stared at him in horror. Danny did not notice. He was just getting started. Danny talked for almost an hour. The professors did not interrupt. They sat frozen in their seats, their expressions shifting between fascination and quiet horror. He told them about his childhood in Montana, about the long winters when snow piled higher than houses, about the summers when forest fires turned the sky orange for weeks, about the bears that wandered into town and the mountain lions that watched from the tree line. "You lived alongside predators?" Rila asked. Her voice was faint. "Everyone does," Danny said. "Back home, I mean, you learn to make noise when you walk so you do not surprise them. You keep your food locked up. You do not run if you see one because running triggers their chase instinct. Basic stuff. Basic stuff. Torvin recorded the phrase in his notes. He underlined it twice. Danny told them about camping, about hiking into the wilderness with nothing but a backpack and staying there for days, about fishing for dinner and purifying water from streams and building fires from sticks and friction. Human children do this? Gent asked. Sure, my first camping trip was when I was 6. My grandfather took me. He said I needed to learn before I got too old and soft. 6 years old, Scylla repeated. Her fluid form had gone very still. 6 years old, and you were surviving in a hostile environment. It was not hostile, Danny said. It was just the woods. Dr. Yulan leaned forward. Mr. Reeves, I want to make sure I understand. On your planet, children are taught survival skills before they begin formal education. They learn to build shelters, find food, protect themselves from predators. Is this correct? Danny thought about it. I mean, not every kid. City kids probably do not learn as much. But yeah, where I grew up, everyone knew the basics. If you could not build a fire or find water or make shelter, you were in trouble. The mountains do not care if you are prepared or not. The mountains do not care, Rilla whispered. She looked at her colleagues. He speaks of his world like it is an enemy. No, Danny said quickly. Not an enemy, just honest. Earth does not pretend to be safe. You respect it, you learn its rules, and you survive. If you do not, well, he shrugged. That is on you. The professors were quiet for a long moment. Finally, Torvin spoke. Mr. Reeves, we knew that Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. We knew the statistics, extreme temperature variations, active geological instability, significant predator populations, high disease prevalence. We knew these things as facts. But we did not understand, Dr. Yulan finished. We did not understand what it meant to evolve there, to grow up there, to carry that world inside you in your instincts, in your muscles, in your blood. Danny looked uncomfortable. It is not that special. Every human knows this stuff. That, Rilla said, is precisely what makes it special. You do not see your abilities as remarkable because to you they are normal. But Mr. Reeves, no other species in this institution has ever finished the shelter test in under 30 minutes. Not once in 200 years. Some of our students take 3 hours, Gent added. Some never finish at all. They freeze, they panic. They cannot apply their knowledge under pressure. And you, Scylla said, walked into the dome, saw a fallen tree, and built a perfect shelter in 10 minutes, without thinking. Danny rubbed the back of his neck. The shelter was not perfect. The door was kind of loose, and I should have made the walls thicker on the north side. The professors stared at him. I thought you said it was not that hard, Torvin said. It is not, but I could have done better. My friend back home, she does bushcraft videos on the internet. She would have built a nicer shelter in less time. She is really good. Bushcraft videos, Rilla said faintly. Humans make entertainment from survival. Sure, there are lots of shows about it. People watch other people survive in different environments. Deserts, jungles, Arctic regions, swamps. It is popular. Dr. Yulan stood up slowly. His crystalline body caught the light as he moved around the table. He stopped in front of Danny and looked down at the young human. Mr. Reeves, he said, I have been teaching survival theory for 150 years. I have trained thousands of students from dozens of species. I have written textbooks that are used across the galaxy. Danny waited nervously. Today, Dr. Yulan continued, I learned that everything I thought I understood about survival was incomplete. You have shown me that knowledge is not just data. It is not calculations or formulas or optimal solutions. It is also instinct, experience, ancestral. Memory passed down through generations. He placed a crystalline hand on Danny's shoulder. It was surprisingly warm. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. You have given me much to think about. Danny did not know what to say. You are welcome. Dr. Yulan almost smiled. Tell me one more thing. What would you consider a genuine survival challenge? Something that would truly test your abilities? Danny thought about it for a long moment. Honestly, another planet, somewhere humans have not figured out yet, somewhere we would have to learn everything from scratch. The professors looked at each other. Perhaps, Dr. Yulan said slowly, that is exactly what we should arrange. Word spread fast through the Orvani Institute. By the next day, everyone knew about the human who finished the survival test in 10 minutes. Students whispered in hallways. Professors debated in faculty meetings. The story grew and changed with each telling. Danny found himself surrounded by curious aliens everywhere he went. They asked him questions during meals between classes on the way to the library. How did he build so fast? Where did he learn? Could he teach them? He answered as best he could, but the attention made him uncomfortable. He was not special. He was just a guy from Montana who knew how to build a shelter. Any human could do it. That was the part the aliens could not understand. 3 weeks after the test, Dr. Yulan called Danny to his office. The old professor had spent those weeks studying Earth with new eyes. He had watched human survival shows. He had read human wilderness guides. He had studied human history, human evolution, human culture. "Your species is remarkable," he said when Danny sat down, "and I do not say that lightly." Danny waited. "You evolved on a world that actively tries to kill you," Dr. Yulan continued. "Extreme temperatures, deadly predators, toxic plants, venomous insects, earthquakes, floods, fires, disease. Your planet throws everything at you, and you survive anyway." "We do not really think about it," Danny said. "It is just home." "That is what makes it so remarkable." Dr. Yulan pulled up a holographic display. It showed Earth spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Most intelligent species evolved on stable worlds, calm climates, few predators, gentle environments that encouraged slow development over millions of years. These species became intelligent through patience and time. He zoomed in on Earth. The planet's surface showed scars of volcanoes, fault lines, hurricane patterns, desert expanses. Humans became intelligent through pressure. Your world gave you no choice. Adapt or die, learn or perish. Every generation that survived passed their knowledge to the next. The ones who could not learn, who could not adapt, did not pass on their genes. Danny had never thought about it that way. "I guess that makes sense." "It means that survival is in your DNA," Dr. Yulan said. "Not metaphorically, literally. Your ancestors who could build shelters, find food, escape predators, they survived long enough to have children. The skills you demonstrated in the test are not just learned behaviors. They are inherited, encoded, part of what makes you human." Danny was quiet for a moment. "My grandfather said something like that once. He said the wilderness was in our blood, that humans were made for hard places." He was correct. Dr. Yulan turned off the display. "Which brings me to why I asked you here. The Institute is making changes, significant changes, and I would like your help." "My help?" "We have been teaching survival wrong. We taught students to calculate optimal solutions. We taught them to analyze and plan and prepare. We gave them knowledge but not instinct, data but not wisdom." Dr. Yulan stood and walked to his window. Through the glass, the station's habitat ring stretched into the distance. "Your 10-minute shelter showed us what we were missing. You did not calculate. You did not analyze. You saw and you acted. Your body knew what to do before your mind had time to think. That is not something we can teach from textbooks." "What do you want me to do?" Danny asked. "Teach," Dr. Yulan said. "We are creating a new course, practical survival methodology, less theory, more instinct, less planning, more doing, and I want you to lead it." Danny's eyes went wide. "Me, I'm still a student. I have 2 more years before graduation." "You will remain a student for your other courses. But for this, you will be a consultant, a practical advisor. You will work alongside the professors to develop new teaching methods based on what you showed us." "I do not know if I can teach," Danny said slowly. "I never really learned this stuff from books. I just did it." "That is exactly why we need you." Dr. Yulan turned back to face him. "We have professors who can explain the theory. What we lack is someone who can show the practice. Someone who can demonstrate what true survival instinct looks like. Danny thought about his grandfather, about all those trips into the mountains, about learning by doing, failing by freezing, growing by struggling. "I have one condition," he said finally. "Name it." "I want to bring in other humans. Students, teachers, whoever wants to come. I am not the best at this stuff, not even close. If you want humans to teach survival, you should get the ones who are really good at it." Dr. Yulon smiled. It was a strange expression on his crystalline face, but Danny recognized it. "Done," the professor said. "Send me a list of candidates. The institute will cover all expenses." Danny nodded. He was already thinking of names. His grandfather was too old to travel, but there were others, people who lived off-grid, people who spent months in the wilderness alone, people who made surviving look easy because for them it was. "This is going to change things," Danny said quietly. "Yes," Dr. Yulon agreed. "It already has." 6 months changed everything at the Orvani Institute. The new survival course started with 12 students. By the second week, there were 40. By the end of the first month, the waiting list had over 300 names. Students from every species wanted to learn the human way. Danny led the practical sessions while professors handled theory. He taught simple lessons that felt strange to put into words. Trust your first instinct. Move first, adjust later. Perfect is the enemy of done. Good enough keeps you alive. His alien students struggled at first. They wanted to calculate. They wanted to plan. Their minds had been trained to think before acting, and now Danny was telling them to act before thinking. "Your brain already did the math," he told a frustrated Fenari student. "It just did it faster than you noticed. Trust it." The Fenari looked doubtful, but she tried, and slowly she got faster. 3 other humans joined the teaching staff. A woman named Lily from Alaska who could build a snow shelter in 8 minutes. A man named Rodrigo from Brazil who knew jungle survival better than anyone Danny had ever met. A woman named Sanna from Finland who once spent 6 months alone in the Arctic for fun. Each human brought different skills, different environments, different instincts shaped by different dangers. Together, they built a curriculum that covered deserts, forests, mountains, oceans, and everything between. Word spread beyond the institute. Other academies sent observers. Other worlds requested consultants. The human survival methodology was becoming famous across the sector. Danny did not care about fame. He cared about results. At the end of the semester, they held another survival test. Same dome, same rules, 60 minutes to build a shelter. This time, Danny watched from the observation booth with the professors. 200 students entered the dome. Among them were 3 new human students who had enrolled that term. The test began. Danny watched the alien students move. They were faster than before, less hesitation, more instinct. Amorthian grabbed branches without scanning them first, and Orvani started building before her committee could form. A Palaxian trusted his eyes instead of his instruments. They were not perfect. Most of them still took too long, still second-guessed themselves, still overcomplicated simple tasks. But they were better. The training was working. Then Danny watched the human students. The first one, a young man from the mountains of Peru, finished in 12 minutes. Not bad. The second, a woman from rural Australia, finished in 9 minutes. Impressive. The third was a young woman named Kira. She was from a small village in Siberia where winters lasted 8 months and temperatures dropped to -50. Danny had met her once during orientation. She had smiled and said this dome reminded her of spring back home. Danny watched Kira work. She moved like water flowing downhill, no wasted motion, no hesitation, no pause. Her hands selected materials before her eyes finished looking. Her body knew the angles before her mind calculated them. 7 minutes and 23 seconds. She finished more than 2 minutes faster than Danny had. In the observation booth, the professors were silent. Dr. Yulon's crystalline face showed something like awe. "She broke your record," Professor Riella said quietly. Danny laughed. Good, she should have. She is from Siberia. Those people are on another level. You are not upset? Torvin asked. Why would I be upset? She is better than me. That is a good thing. The whole point is to be better. The professors looked at each other. Another human concept they did not quite understand, joy in being surpassed. After the test, Danny found Kira outside the dome. She was showing a group of alien students how to weave a grass mat. Her hands moved while she talked, demonstrating without explaining. Nice work in there, Danny said. Kira shrugged. It was warm, much easier than home. Danny smiled. Maybe next time we should make the test harder. Please do, I was bored. They laughed together while the alien students watched in amazement. Two humans joking about a test that most species could barely pass. That evening, Dr. Yulon addressed the graduating class in the main auditorium. He spoke about the year's changes, about the new methods, about the humans who had joined their community and transformed their understanding. We believed survival was about optimal solutions, he said. About calculating the perfect response to every threat. We thought preparation and planning were the keys to staying alive. He paused and looked at Danny in the crowd. The humans taught us differently. They showed us that survival is about adaptation, about trusting instincts that were forged over thousands of generations, about moving and acting and adjusting, not waiting and planning and predicting. He smiled his strange, crystalline smile. They taught us that good enough keeps you alive, and that the wilderness does not care how perfect your calculations are. After the ceremony, a Fenari professor approached Danny with a question. What do you humans call the skill of building shelter quickly? This instinct that you pass down through generations. Danny thought about it. We just call it camping, he said. The professor blinked at him. Camping, you call survival skills camping. Well, yeah, it is what we do for fun. The professor walked away slowly, shaking her head. Danny looked out the window at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there, new planets waited, new challenges, new environments that humans had never seen, never conquered, never made home. But they always did. That was what humans were for,